Return to Glory podcast. We're back. Gentlemen, we are less than 2 weeks away from opening kick against the UTEP Miners. Week 0, we were just talking, is already coming up this Saturday. I probably say this every year, but man, time flies. It feels like school's starting already. Well, it is starting already.
Some people have been in school for weeks. It is here.
Usually,
I was to say, it felt a little bit of a switch up this year because we had that week of fall weather like 2 weeks ago where it was like 70 every day and sunny. And it kind of threw me off. My internal clock was thrown off.
usually I feel like August takes forever just because I'm waiting for football to start, but it's flying this year.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like we're already here. It's not like we're waiting for it to come anymore. I mean, it's here. We are deep into the thick of fall camp, hearing storylines, news. We're at the point now that I think media is trying to look for different things to talk about and push things here and there. The big thing this week that came out that I thought was very neat that got some national attention to was Coach Rule's little minute clip on why we lose close games. So not sure if you guys heard that or watched it, but I have one head shake. No, Austin.
I don't.
No.
Was it from the Chasing 3 doc?
Yeah, I mean, it came out of that.
Then yeah, I did see that. Yep.
It was, I thought it was very good. I mean, just once again, a statement to Rule how good of a speaker, and you can see why he's turned programs around just from a little clip there. Basically, I think the background of what happened, it was during that scrimmage that was in front of all the fans. Apparently some, drive didn't go well. He benched seniors. Apparently a fight broke out at some point too, on the sideline in front of people. And basically he just said, this is why we lose games. It's because when the lights come on, we don't perform. And I don't think that's an incorrect statement. I think we can pinpoint a billion reasons why we've lost close games, but bottom line, it does feel like when the lights come on, that's when things don't go well. And it sounds like maybe practices, it doesn't happen like that all the time, but we can't do it in front of people.
Was he pissed off during this, or?
Oh yeah,
he was pissed.
Don't watch it now, Dak, but watch it later. It's a good minute clip.
Well, yeah, I did not see that. I can't believe I didn't. It made like ESPN and all that.
I don't know.
Maybe more on social media.
Yeah.
X and Facebook sort of thing.
The big takeaway that I think from watching it and then just thinking back to all of our 1-score losses and how we hope they don't continue again, but give us a reason they shouldn't. It just makes me think, and one of my overarching reasons is the pressure and the expectations that our fans and media, and including us, puts on our players. And I think that's an overarching I call it a problem, but there's not a whole lot you do about it. You don't change it, right? You don't say Husker fans should stop caring. But at the same time, I do think that it does put a higher amount of effort and focus into these players to perform in front of 90,000, 85, 90,000 every week, and then get talked about by 15 different podcasts and 2 different national or local papers that get read by everybody. And it's a lot. My thought around this was, if we take this exact same team, exact same coaches, and we go put us at Illinois, or go put us at Indiana, or go put us at Purdue, go put us at Northwestern, I think this team performs really, really well. Like, would you disagree with that? Give us the same schedule. I think over the past 4 or 5 years, I think it changes a lot.
I don't know if I agree with that or not. To say that
I think I'd have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, to say that we're messing up because of the pressure fans put on, I think every school has a certain level of pressure.
I agreed. Not like Nebraska. Name another school that has pressure like Nebraska.
I could name,
Notre Dame,
Oklahoma, Georgia, Alabama.
Name me any other school that you guys are not on our level of schools right now.
Well, you didn't ask that.
That's what
Michigan and Ohio
that is
State.
exactly what I'm saying. Is for the level that we are at, why can we not pull out close wins?
I don't know if I'm following. I'm getting a little confused. I don't
Stupid.
think that's it. I think it's been bad coaching, and I think it's been,
You don't
part of
think
it.
you don't think we put any added pressure on our players and that affects the way they play?
Oh,
Zero.
there's definitely a lot of pressure, and the talent's probably not good enough to meet up with the expectations yet.
But any program, I mean, if your argument is
Austin, I agree. I agree. Any program. I'm saying the level of extent. I'm saying every program has Northwestern has zero pressure from their fans and media. Zero. Zero.
What fans?
but does that help them play better?
I think it could. I think that there's a
Probably
level to
looser.
it. I mean, it's a common thing in sports, right? When you have nothing to lose, teams play what better. I mean, that's a known fact that teams that come out and have nothing to lose and say, "Oh, hell with it." Like there's teams that perform better when there's added pressure on the line in general in sports, unless you have a clutch player, teams, whatever, which we probably don't have or haven't had. That's what I'm saying. I think that we add an extra element to it, and that's what Rule's saying. Like Rule's not blaming the fans. He's not, and he shouldn't. Neither am I. I'm not saying we should change where we're at. I'm just saying that next level of eyes, and every Saturday when you walk out, it's different than going and playing if you're an Indiana football player. It's very different. That's why players come to Nebraska partially is because of the coverage they get. It's different than if you're at Illinois and you go play a home game. It's not, you don't get interviewed by media after a Tuesday practice anywhere. In Nebraska, you do.
And you got to think when you go to these stadiums, like let's just say Northwestern. I mean, these players come out, they come out there and bring in more in that stadium, 70-30 Husker fans. You're going to get their best shot.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's the other side of it is going on the road. Rules that was my takeaway from this whole speech was Rule was basically saying that we need to perform better under pressure, and pressure could be from the situation, from I think our added elements of fans. It could be from what the other team has been doing. But under the lights, when the spotlight's on you, what are we doing? He's saying in practice, we don't do this. But once people start watching, here we go again. And I would say that Mike Riley's probably said a lot of that. And Scott Frost maybe said a lot of that too, especially with the one score losses. And yeah, we can go blame it on the coaching like we've done. But overall, you just have a spotlight on you all the time, and you have to perform, and we have to find the guys that can perform on the field.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. There'd be a little bit, but I don't think it's as big of an impact, probably as much as you do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, a billion.
I don't know. I think I'm kind of with you. I think there's a lot of pressure here. Just because of the attention.
It's more. I mean, you mentioned some of the other schools, but yeah, they're also winning 10 games a year. I mean, and I don't think I'm wrong by saying this. At any other school, not making a bowl game for 6 years, the stadium would be 3/4 or less than that full.
Yeah.
Anywhere else in the country, they're not filling it.
It's damn near impossible not make a bowl game anymore.
So, okay, offensive preview. That's what we're doing today. Going through our projected depth chart. A lot of this, I will say, this depth chart was not created by us. It was produced by our behind-the-scenes analyst. And we are going to use that as our discussion point, and then we will just go from there. And this is based on what we've heard, right? We have not been at practice. We don't know where everybody's thinking, but as of August 18th, this is where our heads are at. So
before we go, if you had to guess how many points per game we scored last year, what would the number be?
17.
I was going to say 20.
17 and a half. Pretty close, Dak.
Boom.
So I'm going to share my screen, and we can start with the quarterbacks here too. Get all my. Okay. Get out of there. The quarterback room is where we'll start, but I did want to start high level, Austin, with what you have started. So our offense last year, we can all agree, was not very good.
Abysmal.
It was bad. And I actually heard this and I really liked it. I think because Iowa's offense was so bad on a national level that actually our offense got overlooked of how bad it was at times, because all people wanted to talk about was how bad Iowa was. But our offense was, I would say, a little better than them, but it wasn't much. The turnovers were the overarching factor as to why we probably couldn't put the ball in the end zone as much as we wanted to. And a lot of that came from fumbles, but we had some interceptions as well. Satterfield returned as OC, but we bring in Glenn Thomas to help there. Glenn Thomas takes over the quarterback position. We expect to run a lot of the same style from what we know. There may be some new looks, but the same type of formations. However, I think we can all expect that the run to pass ratio may flip the other way to some extent. We don't know how much, but we do think with Dylan Raiola coming in that may change. So overarching thoughts to start before we dive into positions.
Overarching, I would probably agree, because last year we passed it 261 times versus almost 500 times we rushed it. We're probably going to throw a little more than that this year.
I mean, that was just because you couldn't throw.
Yeah. Our quarterback is probably not going to lead the team in rushing. Also probably going to be true. I do like the hire of Glenn Thomas. I think it's good to have. He is the co-OC. I mean, he's not even just the QB coach. He's a and so we questioned Marcus Satterfield a little bit last year with just some play design and play choices that he was running. And so I think it's good to have another body in there that's kind of adding to that offense. It can't be worse.
Did Sims lead the team in fumbles and picks?
I'm sure.
We fumbled it 31 times last year.
Holy shit. I did not know that.
From what I heard, I think we were by far wasn't even close leading in fumbles. And I think we were top like 12 maybe in interceptions. I mean, overall on turnover level, we were number one in the country. On a just plus minus turnover, we were number one in the country because we don't get many takeaways. At least we didn't last year. So, yeah, it just isn't good. And I think if you take the turnovers out of it, things may have looked a little better, but we just didn't ever feel like we had an offense that could go down and score when we needed to.
Because we felt we were going to drop the ball every time we needed to score.
Correct.
I mean, you fumble it 30 times and however many interceptions it was, it's pretty bleak.
You averaged 2.5 fumbles a game.
Pretty much, yeah.
Good math, Dak. Appreciate it.
All in my head right there.
So, all right, we're going to go position by position. I wanted to start with the offensive line because, as we've talked about before, that is the most important. But we're just going to go top down here. Start at the QB position. We don't know for sure that Dylan Raiola will be the starting quarterback. 6'3", 230-pound freshman from Georgia. Heinrich Harburg has looked better. We've talked about Jalen Gramstead a little bit, how he's looked good coming off the quarterback of the year at the FCS level. And then Danny Kalen also there. I don't know exactly where the backup is going to fall. I'm guessing it's probably still Heinrich, but that to me depends on if they move Heinrich around and play him anywhere else. I think that's a possibility. And if they do, that might mean that one of these other guys, probably Gramstead, has looked well and we trust him at that backup position. Here's my overall thought on the depth. I think it's solid. I don't think it's great. What's scary is the injuries that could happen to Dylan. And do we have enough improvement, speaking back to the turnovers, that we can be comfortable saying you can manage an offense, Heinrich, Gramstead, Danny Kalen? Can you manage an offense and not turn the ball over? Our plays are going to change dramatically, I think, without Raiola at quarterback. But that's the question here. If Raiola stays healthy, knock on wood, I think we're going to be okay.
I would probably agree. I don't know if any of us disagree. Raiola, I'd say probably most people would agree. Raiola is going to be the starting quarterback. I think Rule said he's expected to announce it this week at some point, probably who QB1 is at this point. But with Heinrich, I think Heinrich's are too. And I think he sets a decent floor. He had his turnovers last year. He wasn't a Jeff Sims, but he had his turnovers. But if you expect some improvement from last year to this year within the same offense, you have a quarterback specific head coach. I think the floor gets raised a little bit with Heinrich as your backup. So I'm not as worried as I was last year when our when Sims went out there and then Heinrich got hurt. It's like, well, I guess we're gonna do Purdy, and then Purdy went out there and it was last year was a mess. I feel a lot better this year than I do last year.
You played your whole QB room last year.
Yeah, we did. And every one of them threw an interception.
First off, I didn't know Raiola was 230 pounds.
He's a thick boy.
He's the heaviest quarterback he got. Damn, I did not know that. So he'll be able to take some hits then, and he should. You would think he should be able to last from like the major head injury and stuff like that if he's that big. I don't know, but do you guys think Danny Kalen's going to redshirt then?
Yes,
I would guess so. Yep.
Yeah, that's.
Although Rule did have a lot of nice things to say about Kalen this week. I don't know what that means. If that's just a don't leave us yet.
Yeah, don't transfer.
Don't transfer because you're not going to start. We're going to announce
I mean,
QB1 and you're not going to be on the roster. You're not going to be on the list.
If Raiola comes back next year and he's playing here, I bet you Kalen's gone.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Nebraska boy. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a Nebraska boy.
It's like Harvard,
He came. He didn't have to come. He did. He chose to come, knowing exactly who he was going to back up.
So my concern, another concern, injuries. I think that's one thing you have to consider when you're building out a depth chart and looking at how deep you are. I said this before with Dylan Raiola. I think everybody's expectations of him, and as they probably should be from what we've seen so far, are like off the charts, right? Everybody is expecting him to do a lot of really good things and quote unquote save Nebraska football, as we've named about 5 different saviors here in the last 20 years. But he's the one that's supposed to come in and be the guy. NFL type talent, obviously a 5-star coming, first 5-star quarterback we've gotten. I think that is okay to think that, but just be patient with it and don't freak out if things don't go well. I can totally see the first few games it just being a little bit of fast paced. It's different playing at the D1 level. I hope he's got that dog in him that it doesn't affect him as much, but it's a good schedule to start. But don't be surprised if there's some missed throws, some sacks.
Yeah, it should be treated as a rookie quarterback.
He's not Danny Kalen, right? A freshman, and I still think he's above the level of where even someone like Adrian Martinez was his freshman year, because we didn't know what was going to happen with Adrian. Adrian came out and looked good. There was not that level of expectation on Adrian when he came out and started his freshman year. Dylan Raiola has a lot of that, so it kind of goes back to the overall pressure and expectation thing on him. I don't know what he thinks or what his thoughts are, but I think everybody's really high on him. Just be patient with it. It's going to take some time. It's not going to be worse than last year, I don't think.
Last year we completed 52% of our passes.
Yes.
For 6 yards a pass. Like, that's bad.
Now, and you were throwing a lot of screens, dude. Like, you weren't throwing hard passes.
Correct. And I know we only completed 50% of them.
The frustration could come is with the play calling, depending on how Raiola looks here the first few games. I mean, if he looks good and we keep throwing it, then great. But if there's a couple of struggles, I can see fans just start grumbling and wanting to go back to run the ball. And that might be me too. We'll have to see how he looks here the first few games, but do expect him to have the ball in his hands a lot.
I mean, Shay, you're probably going to air it out a lot that first game just to see what you got.
I would guess so. All right, moving on to running backs. EJ Barthel the running backs coach. We got 4 guys here that I think could play some minutes for us, maybe even 5. But
We got 4 guys who could start.
It's a, I'm going to call it deep, but I'm going to put an asterisk next to that. We have guys that I all think are very solid. When you talk about depth, I think you have to be careful on what depth really is. Are these guys, is it true that we have a lot of guys that could play? Yes. But I don't think any of them are superstars. I think they're all solid, good at what they do. The guys that win this room are going to be the ones that hang on to the ball. I think that's pretty well known. Don't turn it over. Don't fumble. I think these guys are very interchangeable. Emmett Johnson and Ramir might be a little more of the shiftier back. Gabe Irvin, Dante Dowdell, a little more power back. Maybe Gabe Irvin's maybe a little more all around. But we have 4 guys that can play this position for us, whatever they are asked of them. I think that's a good thing. I don't think that any of them, I don't think this is a room that we're like, oh my gosh, his running back room is stacked. Like, this is an unbelievable running back room. I don't think that's them. I just think they're solid. And it's good that we have 4 of them. I hope all 4 of them can stay happy and stay around here. Ramir's the only senior. So if we can keep 3 of these guys for next year, that's a win.
You don't think this is the 2012 Alabama running back room? Whatever room that was, it was like everyone was a freaking NFL running back.
No.
Yeah, like you said, these guys aren't superstars at all, but they're good, solid running backs, and I'd say they're all about the same skill level.
Right. I think they're all starting quality. I don't like they're again not superstar starting, but I think
There's none of them you brag about.
Yeah. I think out of all of them, I feel best about Gabe Irving, assuming he stays healthy. He's had a little bit of an injury bug last couple of years. I think he had, was it a hip last year that kept him out?
I mean, all these guys to that point have had injuries. Even Emmett got hurt a little bit last year. Ramir's been banged up, as we know. I'm not sure about Dowdell. But yeah, injury bug again. I think that makes me feel better about, I call it depth, because we have a lot of guys that can fill in if someone were to go down, if and when.
Because let's see, Emmett Johnson had 400 yards last year on 90 carries, so 4.6 yards a carry. Gabe Irving had
We're not going to have 1,000-yard rusher this year.
no.
For the amount of times that we've ran the ball. I don't. It's going to be rotated, and guys are going to have their game and their moment, and it's going to feel like this is their week for the coaching staff, and that's who's going to get 12 to 14 snaps, and then the other guys are going to get 6 to 8. Like, that's how it's going to go.
Someone's going to fumble it and get pulled.
Yep, and if that's getting stressed the way it should, I mean, that should be how it happens. Dowdell might get some more goal line carries for the bigger guy that he is. So,
and during spring, I think Dowdell looked really good. I have not heard really anything from him since then, though. I have not. It hasn't really. The running back room has not really been talked about.
And that's why it feels like he's 4. I mean, just from hearing the conversation, it feels like he slid down. On the video game, I think Emmett, Ramir, and Dowdell are all like 79 overall, like the exact same. And then Gabe Irvin's not in the game. So hard to know where he falls. But yeah, it just seems like he's not getting much talk. So that would make you think that maybe he's sitting in that 4 spot, which is where we have him here.
I think probably Gabe Irvin's going to start, I think.
Is that, yeah, who gets the first snap? That's why the oar's there. I think Emmett and Gabe are both there. Who gets the first snap there at running back? First carry?
Gabe.
Yeah, I see Ramir as more of probably a special teams and receiving option more than a primary running back.
I'll go Emmett just to be different. All right. Wide receiver room. Oh, I have Donovan Rayola there. That is not right. Our wide receiver room is Garrett McGuire. There we go. Here we go. Jamal Banks, Isaiah Naird, 2 transfers coming in from the portal. Malachi Coleman, Jalen Lloyd, 2 speedsters. Andrew Corey Barney, should add him to that list. Carter Nelson, who we recruited as a tight end. It just sounds like he's too much of an athlete to keep off the field, and he's sitting behind a couple of tight ends here that we'll get to a second. So he's going to get some look at wide receiver, and I think he's going to play.
So too.
It really does sound like he's going to be on the field. Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, Dak's favorite guy who's been here forever, as he says.
He's back.
Alex Bullock, another guy there to mention. I don't think Bonner's going to get too many looks here as a sophomore, but could be there as well. A lot of names that have gotten some positive talk amongst the coaches, the media, etc. Austin, what do you think of this room here?
Well, I mean, we didn't really lose a lot of talent, so I don't think it's going to be worse than last year. We lost Billy Kemp, Washington, and Fleeks. Is that it?
And you ain't gonna miss any of those guys.
I don't think you're going to miss any of them. Big step up, Jamal Banks, Isaiah Nayor. I think those are two very big, especially. Yeah, those are probably our biggest transfers this year. It's not even close. Just big-bodied receivers that are going to come in and help a freshman quarterback catch with a large catch radius, and hopefully that's good enough to kind of bump Malachi down. I think Jalen Lloyd, they really like Jalen Lloyd. I mean, they love how fast he is. I saw something talking about how much weight he's put on, but he hasn't lost any speed. Uh, didn't Shakori Barney get injured during the spring game? Didn't he like tear
Yeah, he's
his...
been banged up. Yeah.
Okay. I feel a lot better about this wide receiver room than I do last year. I think
Lots of speed.
lots of speed, a lot of size. I mean, we got 4 guys over 6'4". That's pretty good. And
Yeah,
they're good players. Like I think they're all good players over 6'4". They're not like scrubs that are just in there. I'll be interested to see what Carter Nelson does as a freshman tight end coming in at wide receiver. But I'm actually pretty excited about the wide receiver room this year.
Yeah, I'd
Is
say
this
go ahead, Dak.
is this Garcia Castaneda? Is this his second time back?
Yes.
He's a senior. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't get what your love is for him.
Just I don't get how he's still here. I swear to God, he's playing college football in like 2005.
My concern or floor, I guess, with this room is same as the running back room. There is a lot of hype. I would say this is probably one of the most talked about positions on the entire roster so far this spring off season. There still, though, I don't do we have a guy? Do we have a guy that when we need to get a third down, who are we throwing it to? I hope that could be one of these 2 transfers that we brought in. They seem to be leading the room, which is good because it's young. I mean, besides those 2 and IGC, Dax Lover, they're it's a young room. It's a young group. I hope they're good enough to get open. Like that's the big thing. And if we're going to throw it, that needs to be the case. What you guys said though, with the speed, we're going to need to hit some deep balls this year. And I think we have the quarterback to do it. We need these guys to be able to go like Trey Palmer used to go and Samari Toure used to go. And I think they can. That's like the really high ceiling for me is if these guys are actually just these stud athletes and we got the quarterback now that can get them the ball in tight spaces, like it could be a dangerous room. I think there's a very low floor and a very high ceiling. There's not a whole lot to know what to expect, but it is a quote unquote deep room. A lot of interchangeable guys, I think, especially adding in Carter Nelson. These 2 seniors, they need to lead the room though, and they need to come out. They can't be Billy Kemp. They cannot be Billy Kemp.
Thanks.
Okay. Moving on. Tight end room. Make this one a little shorter. Thomas Fedoni. Nate Borcher. Solid room. This is one of my favorite
good
rooms.
Players.
I like this room the best out of any other room. I feel the best about them. We have to use them the right way. We have to get them involved. We have to get Fedoni the ball in space and not jumping the ball in traffic and twisting and turning. They got to stay healthy, yes, but we have to utilize these 2 guys. It is a good 1-2 punch at tight end.
Yeah,
get these guys out in the flat and let them run.
Yeah, I really love our tight ends. I mean, I personally am a tight end guy. Whenever I play EA or Madden, I love the 2 tight end sets. Just give me those big boys the ball. So I'm really hoping that Thomas Fedoni and Nate Borcher just both used a ton.
All right, most important position group, the offensive line. A lot to talk about here. Number one, the biggest important thing, protect Dylan Raiola. That is what matters, I think, the most going into the year. Obviously, I think we have to have a strong run game. Right now, with Teddy Prohaska going down, we got Corcoran probably starting at left tackle, Justin Evans Jenkins at left guard, Ben Scott at center, Micah Mazuka. A lot of really good talks about him at right guard. Bryce Benhart taking a big step from last year there at right tackle. And then we got some young guys behind him. I don't know how many of them are ready to play. This is where the question of depth, I think, worries me a little bit. We have experience. We've said that before here in our preseason talks. We have experience here. I don't know what the word depth means here because it drops off pretty fast. One guy gets injured, one guy goes down. You're throwing in Henry Latofsky. Are we comfortable with him coming in? Jacob Hood, Gunnar Gatula. Are you ready to step in at Ohio State in week 8 if Corcoran goes down to protect Raiola's blind side? This is where it's scary. But at the same time, how many top, and we're not even a top, how many Power 5 programs, have 7 or 8 guys that, they're comfortable with? There's probably not many. You're going to have some of these younger guys coming in if guys go down. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah, losing Prohaska was that was a real bummer because that was kind of the one guy that he could put him in a couple different positions that if he's not starting.
Well, you felt if he was going to start, you felt Corcoran was that guy that maybe you could move around. You felt like you had an option.
Right. They're seniors, they're big, they've been around, they can play several different positions. So that was kind of the one cog that you can move in and out. And without that, it gets a lot tighter. You feel good that your starters are all seniors except for your left guard, who started last year towards the end of the year. I feel good about Ben Scott. Bryce Benhart's really come around. I think he is doing a lot better. I honestly think Turner Corcoran got improved last year. So hopefully we can build off of that and have another good year of development. But yeah, you're right. Just depth-wise, outside of the starters, I don't even know who I'd say is our next best lineman.
Yeah, you better hope that Corcoran doesn't go down.
Yeah.
That's why it's such a big loss, losing another guy, because now you're stuck with two freshmen backing him up.
On
the quarterback's blind side.
It's everywhere, right? It's not just Corcoran. I think offensive line, yes, they're their position, but they also can get moved around. That's why you see Latofsky on here in different places. You see Justin Evans Jenkins on here a couple different places. Guys can move around if need be. But you're right. Outside of those top 5, you have a lot of guys without much experience. I will say this: 310, 315, 310, 325, 315. You like to see that. That looks really good. I heard Jacob Hood is losing weight, which is good. I think 350 is a little
I didn't even notice that.
A big dude.
Holy
boy.
But I did hear he's slimming down, which is good. He needs to be able to play. Not a fat joke. Just needs so we can move on the offensive line. So I think there's pieces here, but it's not very deep, and it's still the most important position. It is. It always will be. I don't care how much hype we want to talk about any other position. That's why I wanted to start with the offensive line. You have to have a good core up front. It's a must. And if you don't, nothing else is going to work.
Your run game won't work. Your pass game won't work. It doesn't matter.
Your play calling looks like shit then no matter what you're trying to do. So you need to have a good offensive line. We will obviously be talking about the offensive line over and over. But a lot of times you don't know who these guys are because they're not the guys making the headlines. They never have. That's why Nebraska football is so good.
Bryce Benhart's going to become the leading Husker in starts this year. All time.
Wow.
God, he was awful 2 years ago.
He was awful 2 years ago.
Wasn't he rated the worst lineman in the nation?
Yes, PFF was not good. Neither has Corcoran's been good.
So that's what scares me.
They surprised you.
They were sophomores, and guess who's backing up them? Sophomores. Not great feeling.
But maybe that means because we're not starting sophomores that we could be better. That's been the hard part is, you return four or five guys that have experience here. Well, 4 now without Prohaska, and you say, okay, that's good. Well, is it good? Like, we have not had a solid offensive line. They got better last year, really bad 2 years ago.
I think there was big improvement last year. I feel pretty good about this offensive line. The starters, I should
Correct.
say.
As long as we stay healthy. The only hard part, and I'm not saying we're a playoff team, but it is more like of a 14-15 game schedule now. And actually, that's why I love Georgia to win it all this year, is because look at the depth they have, especially on the offensive line. You need a deeper roster than ever before.
Yes.
Because
they have
of
guys,
the schedule.
3 guys deep that would start for any other team.
Correct.
Yeah. And I know we're running out of time, but I will say, you said that this helps the passing and run game, but having a better quarterback who is a deeper threat downfield does help the offensive line, because now when they're running the ball, it's not as much of they're stacking the box and we have to block so many people sort of thing.
Correct.
It causes more confusion on the defensive end. So that does help them out.
All right. Defensive preview on Wednesday. Go Big Red.
QBR.
Boomer Sooner.